Hello everyone, my name is Sniping is Fun, and welcome you all back to the next The 5 list on this season 2 of, the 5 lists. I just recently got off filming the 5 Marvel heroes that need to be in the MCU, and I mentioned that if I'm doing this side of this list in the last video, I obviously have to do the other side. You see the name of the name of the video, the thumbnail. You kind of would have seen this coming with me doing that last video, and I want to do this version too. If I'm going to talk about heroes, I'm going to have to obviously talk about villains. So welcome to my fourth 5 list on this return to season 2 of the 5 lists. And I'm now talking about, let me just get this intro out of the way. Let's get started right the heck now. The 5 Marvel villains that need to be in the MCU. Every great hero has a great villain. Marvel has a crap ton of great heroes, and we've seen a good crap ton of them show up since Iron Man back in 2008. And almost done with Phase 3, we've seen numerous people show up. Ant-Man, Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver. We've seen Spider-Man, Captain America, Thor, the Wasp, the Guardians of the Galaxy, multiple different characters. And there's still numerous heroes to include. And I mentioned that in my last list. If you have not watched that list, I would suggest watching that one now too. You can watch it after this, before it, doesn't really matter. There's no continuity here. But there's also been a lot of great Marvel villains included since day one. And just like the heroes, there's numerous villains they have not adapted yet either. Partially because of the Fox deal and the Fantastic Four and, the X-Men and whatnot. And with that now, we probably will eventually see those characters in the coming phases, phase 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever. But I'm going to make it one little thing said before I start the actual list. And I mentioned this in the last video too. I did not include the Fantastic Four, and I did not include the X-Men. Despite me wanting them so bad, I did not include them because of the cliche choice. Everyone would include them on their list. I want to at least diversify a little bit and include some other possible choices, of which I did. With that being said, any villain that's related to the Fantastic Four, any villain related to the X-Men, I'm not going to talk about. So I'm not going to include Doctor Doom, Magneto, the Brotherhood of Mutants, Galactus, or any of that stuff on this list. They're all key characters that everyone asks for, and at some point, because the Fantastic Four and the X-Men are eventually going to be in the MCU, they're going to happen, and we're going to see Magneto eventually. We're going to see, we're going to see. We're going to see, like the Galactus and Doctor Doom and whatever the heck else at some point in the MCU, like probably Phase 5 onwards. These are other villains that I want to include, talk about. Give other villains a shot. And I've went on about 3 some odd minutes now, talking and I said I was going to cut the intro short, and I still haven't started the list. But let's get this started with the 5 villains that need to be in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I'm going to start off with one that kind of was alluded to already, so technically I'm kind of twisting the possibilities, recommendation type, criteria to get a character on this list. But we've only been, speculate, they've only kind of alluded to one version of the character. They haven't alluded to this other version. And I'm going to start off with this character, and it's going to be Magus. We've already been alluded to with Guardians of the Galaxy 2 that Adam Warlock is eventually going to be showing up. He was the end credits scene for that movie. And he's a major character, which surprisingly didn't bring him in with the Infinity War Endgame storyline, given that he's a major character in that. But I can see why they probably holding off on him until Guardians 3 or whatever. He's a major character in the story. But Magus is essentially an evil version of Adam Warlock. Adam Warlock's already kind of like an anti-hero type character. He's not really fully good, but he's not fully bad. He kind of, depending on what goals need to be done, what he needs to accomplish, and whatever his mission, he can go either way. Magus is a full-blown future version of him that is completely evil. And if we see Adam Warlock eventually show up in the MCU, we're going to eventually have to, down the line, probably a phase or so after he comes out, because he's probably going to be in Phase 4. So probably Phase 5 or 6, we should probably see Magus, him coming from the future. He's this evil version, and Warlock versus his evil self, Magus, and they just go at each other. And there's a lot of people that I know want to see him. He is a popular character in the comic books. I think he showed up in numerous cartoons at some point, in video games, and he's pretty damn popular. I would say he is a villain that we already have some sort of groundwork to build him into the universe. He doesn't have to be fully created in the future. We already have the slight groundwork for Adam Warlock. he's probably the easiest character on my list to include at some point. And I think a lot of people do want to see him. My second character is pretty much a character that is a major villain in the comic books for various different Marvel heroes, specifically Spider-Man. And he was speculated and rumored to be in the next, Spider-Man movie, but now we know it's Mysterio. But before Mysterio was confirmed and rumored and confirmed, this character was speculated as well. And we've already got the slight, build up to eventually a Sinister Six. He's a major character in the Sinister Six. So at some point, I would like to see Kraven the Hunter actually get into the MCU. He was created in the 60s. He's been a major villain character in the Marvel Universe since he was August 1964 creation in the 60s in the comic books. He's a major character in the Sinister Six, and we've already been alluded to with Spider-Man Homecoming, the Vulture, Shocker, Scorpion. Basically, they're alluding to in prison that they're going to come together and work together against Spider-Man. So those are three major characters in the Sinister Six. One of the other major inclusions would be Kraven the Hunter. He's a major enemy for various heroes in the Marvel Universe, but mainly Spider-Man. But also has come to my attention, he is a major villain sometimes to the Black Panther as well. So when you include him in there, I would say either A, you include him in the Spider-Man movie, which I think is the key choice. He should really just be in a Spider-Man movie because he's more of a villain to Spider-Man than Black Panther. But he also could be a villain in the one of the next Black Panther movies. Or you could do a buddy cop movie between Spider-Man and Black Panther. They're both captured by him, thrown in the jungle, and have to survive Kraven hunting them down. I think that'd be kind of cool, and just have Kraven show up, and then that alludes to him being very arrested, and he meets the Vulture or something. Or they break out of jail and they meet him, and it starts alluding to more after credit scenes that we're eventually going to see the Sinister Six probably sometime by Phase 5. I would assume Phase 5 is when we're going to see the Sinister Six. During the same phase, I'm sure they're going to have the X-Men. But yeah, Kraven is a really popular villain. He's major in the comic books. He's been major in the various cartoons, like the Spider-Man animated series in the 90s, various video games and whatnot. He's been boss battles in. I think Kraven deserves it, and I think a lot of fans of him want to see him in there at some point. And that's also based on the fact there's numerous Spider-Man villains we have not seen yet. So yeah, he's one of the top ones on that list. 3. This is a character that's going to come with the Fox merger with the likes of Fantastic Four. We've already got his species included there, so it's just like the Adam Warlock thing for, Magus, like a character that's already been kind of alluded to, building the groundwork for in the MCU, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They've already alluded to his species back in the Captain Marvel movie, and you should already know who I'm talking about. And that goes to Super Skrull. Now I know it's a cliche choice, just like me not including Magneto or Galactus or Doctor Doom, but I want to include them because those characters people always talk about because they always talk about the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, and wanting them in the MCU, which is normal and everyone wants to see those in. But Super Skrull is a villain that a lot of people have asked for, but not a lot of people ask for at the same point. He's wanted. He's a pretty popular villain character. But you don't see him requested as much as those other choices. That's the reason why I wanted to include him on this list. And we've already built up the groundwork in the Captain Marvel movie with the Skrulls. Here's the thing. We've got a slight twist that the Skrulls in the Captain Marvel movie were good guys. But in the comic books and whatnot, the Skrulls were normally seen as an evil species. And you can kind of say that maybe there's certain Skrulls that are good and there's certain Skrulls that are bad. And then you have this Skrull right here, Super Skrull. He's basically a Skrull mutation. He kind of gets the powers of the Fantastic Four, and I think he's now eligible because we're eventually going to get the Fantastic Four in the MCU, so he can come down, get the powers of them, and it mutates, and maybe he's a good one that gets the powers, and maybe the MCU version of him could be something where getting the powers of the Fantastic Four messes with his mind, makes him evil. Or maybe there are just evil Skrulls out there like there are in the comic books. He was created back in the 60s, a major villain to the Fantastic Four and numerous Avenger characters. And with the Fantastic Four being included eventually at some point, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, their only villain is not the likes of Galactus and the Silver Surfer and Doctor Doom. Super Skrull is also one of their major villains, and I think he should be in as well. And there's a lot of people that do actually want to see him, even if he's not one of the most requested, overrated choices. he is a big choice that a lot of people want to see. We already have the groundwork, just like freaking Magus, to get him eventually in a future phase of the MCU. This next character goes back to my last list. Here's a spoiler if you guys have not watched my Heroes one yet. One of my 5 choices was the Ghost Rider, and this is a main adversary, a major villain for the Ghost Rider, but he's also kind of a villain for Daredevil at some point and various other Avengers, and that's Blackheart. It's a cool demon monster character. Like, it's like having Dormammu eventually show up in the MCU, like a legitimate physical version of Dormammu. He's a major villain of Doctor Strange, various Avengers. He just has this cool, creepy, evil, monstrous presence. That's the same reason like Blackheart, and he's a major villain. He's been a fairly major villain since 1989, since his inclusion in Daredevil comics in September of 1989. He's fought against Ghost Rider. He's fought against various other Avengers. He's been included in video games at some point. He was some boss battles, playable characters in, like, I believe, one of the Marvel Ultimate Alliance. He was in Marvel vs. Capcom 2. He was in the Marvel Superheroes game. He's majorly been in video games, and he's a very popular villain-esque character. I would love to be able to see him in there, and I do think a lot of other people want to see him in there at some point as well. And if we can start getting into some of the darker characters, like I mentioned in my heroes list, eventually bringing in like Blade and Ghost Rider, like they're focusing on a lot of the galaxy intergalactical heroes at some point, which would probably be where Phase 4 starts. But eventually we're going to have to start seeing some of these darker, more grim characters of Marvel's universe, like Blade, Ghost Rider, and Wolverine fits into that category too with the Dark Avengers. Blackheart would be awesome to see, and just to see how they build him up and make him look would be kind of cool. And my 5th and final character on this list is probably the villain I want to see most of all the characters on this list, except for maybe Kraven. Yeah, Kraven's probably one I want to see a little bit more, but this is definitely someone I want to see more in the universe than Blackheart and Super Skrull and Magus. And it actually surprised me that we have not seen him in the MCU yet, given that he is a main adversary of the Avengers and a major villain to Captain America. But in the Captain America movies, we have not seen him. But technically now that, Falcon has pretty much the Captain America mantle, we're probably going to see future Captain America movies anyways, and obviously future Avenger movies. This character should be included in at some point. And that's the Taskmaster. He's awesome. That's all I really have to say. Taskmaster is a really cool, really cool villain-esque character. He's not even fully a villain. He's an anti-hero. So you could have him team up with the Avengers to take on some villains at some point, like Doctor Doom maybe, or MODOK, or Galactus, or some sort of, some sort of high entity power. Maybe he starts off as a villain in a Captain America movie, and then he doesn't die. He escapes, and then he eventually comes back in an Avengers movie and helps the new Avengers team up against some sort of evil force. He basically was created back in May of 1980. He's been part of the Secret Avengers, so he has teamed up with the Avengers at some point. Thunderbolts has helped S.H.I.E.L.D., but he's a main adversary of the Avengers and of Captain America. And he's like a teacher. He's trained a lot of different assassins in there, and we've already seen one of them in the MCU, Crossbones. Crossbones trained under him. So that kind of is a small little inclusion there, that he worked with like Hydra to help infiltrate S.H.I.E.L.D. back in like Winter Soldier and whatnot, and Civil War, getting killed off with his own explosion. You can go the backstory that he was trained by Taskmaster, and Taskmaster is somewhere in the MCU just behind the scenes training all these deadly assassin characters. And that could be his first movie, is all these different assassins coming in, and he has the power to pretty much learn anyone's fighting style. He can see them and learn their fighting style. That's kind of cool. And a big main battle between him and like Sam, Falcon's Captain America would be kind of cool now that we don't have Steve Rogers anymore. So yeah. Taskmaster is a character I sure as heck want to see in the MCU at some point. And that's it for the villains list. We have Magus. We have Kraven the Hunter. Super Skrull. Blackheart. And Taskmaster. Put in the comment section what you guys think. Do you guys agree with any of these 5 villains? Which of the 5 I mentioned would you want to see most in the Marvel Cinematic Universe in some future phase? What other villains that I have not mentioned do you want to see in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Put in the comment section below. We can discuss it there. And that's it for this list. My name is Snipeys1. Peace. Please subscribe if you want to. Have a lovely day. And I'll see you later in the next The 5 list and other future videos. Bye.